and welcome to another episode of the Family Gamers Podcast. This is episode 392.
Hey, hello everybody. We are super excited to bring another show to you this week. We're finally getting some warm weather in Massachusetts, and so we're going to talk about some springtime games this week.
Yeah, games that make us think spring, flowers, and green growing things.
Mm-hmm. But of course, I will open the show not with springtime games, but a fact about the number 392. All right, so Anitra, I try to stay away from car facts because I feel like there's a number car thing for almost every number. But every once in a while, you get to a number that it's like particularly important in the car world, and 392 happens to be one of those numbers.
Okay.
Plus,
why?
Which there wasn't anything good in the Guinness Book of World Records for 392.
So why is 392 an important number?
Yeah, so it's important for specifically Dodge performance engines. The SRT 392 is a high-performance version of the Dodge Charger and Challenger models. So the Charger and the Challenger are the classic muscle car look, right? Like they have that kind of design to them. SRT stands for Street and Racing Technology. It's kind of their like fancy, you know, overpowered stuff. And the 392 represents the engine's cubic inches, which is enormous, indicating a 392 cubic inch naturally aspirated V6 engine that produces 485 horsepower. This engine is known for its powerful performance, with the Charger SRT 392 capable of accelerating from 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, it was discontinued in 2018, but the engine continues to be used in other models like the Charger and Challenger Scat Pack.
Scat Pack?
I don't know, man. We have a Honda Civic, which has probably 002 or whatever it is. Anyway, but
it's great.
Yeah.
It's a great car.
That's it. That's my fact for 392.
And I have a message from our sponsor. If you find yourself in a situation where your credit has taken a hit, you've got a difficult hole to dig out of, but it's not impossible. The two most important things to start doing, if you aren't doing them already, is to pay all of your bills on time and to pull your credit reports from annualcreditreport.com. You get each of the 3 major credit reports once a year for free, so you can space them out. On your credit reports, you're looking for errors and forgotten accounts and your payment history. The best way to improve your score is a good payment history, so keeping up with your credit report can help you track your progress. Finally, if you need more help, you should seek out a qualified credit counselor. Most of them work for organizations that will try to push you into a debt management plan. Try to avoid this if you can, and just work with the credit counselor to come up with a budget and plan to pay down your debts. A debt management plan is better than bankruptcy, but you need to be aware and informed about what you're getting into. We're going to put a link in the show notes for the FTC's website with information about credit counseling and debt management plans for anyone who wants to learn more. Remember, you can always schedule a short phone call by going to firstmovefinancial.com/familygamers. And even if they aren't the right fit to help you, they can point you in the right direction.
Thanks so much to the team over at First Move Financial for sponsoring the Family Gamers Podcast. So, Anitra, it is now March, which means we have to do the February monthly report. And mine is bleak, but there are some games on it that we have played.
Why is it that January seems to take forever and then February is gone in like 5 days?
Well, it's mathematically the shortest month of the year.
It is.
I mean, there is that.
It is.
But it is shocking that February is over. I feel like it just started.
Yes.
So anyway, we'll start with just some games that we've been playing. The first one on the list is a game that we picked up at PAX Unplugged last year for review, and this is Horrified World of Monsters.
Yeah, so overall, I'm liking this. The monsters in World of Monsters are different.
Yeah, so this particular go-through of it, we decided to play the most complicated monster, which was Cthulhu, and we also added on Krampus, which is a one-monster addition, which actually could technically be added to any of the Horrified games.
Yeah.
So there is also a cool way that you can blend Horrified World of Monsters with the last Horrified that came out, or
the
Horrified
Greek monsters. Yeah.
So that's definitely something we want to check out. We haven't done that yet, but we tried Cthulhu and Krampus was really weird and interesting. Krampus is trying to capture some children and kind of store them on his monster board, and you are moving around and trying to get the children to St. Nicholas so that St. Nicholas can protect them.
Yeah.
And once all of the children are protected, then you can go after Krampus himself. So that was pretty neat. Cthulhu, on the other hand, was totally weird.
oh my goodness, you had to try to match up dials on the Cthulhu board with certain other symbols that are like randomly chosen each game. And then you hit the Cthulhu like mini, and then the Cthulhu mini disappears and opens up like a portal to, I forget what the
void. It's right in the middle of the board.
Yeah.
It's the void.
And well, the void opens up a portal to some other dimension with
Jarl of something.
Yeah,
with
or something.
Too many
and then you've got this giant Cthulhu standee with you have to do other tasks to put basically like shackles on its 4 tentacles.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it very much felt like a video game boss in the way that there were like phases of Cthulhu to do. So definitely a little bit different, a little bit more complicated, but that's okay. I mean, we've played Horrified before. Like, it's the same gameplay loop. It's just you're trying to do different things. And I actually really admire the team that has worked on these games in the way that they've come up with new and creative things to do without changing the core loop of how you do the stuff that you do. So that's pretty cool.
I liked it overall, but it did remind me of the nitpicks I have with the Horrified system in general. And every time we try a new Horrified game, I'm like, hey, this time it's going to be easier to find where the locations are. No, they're all only printed on the board. And you're like, where is this thing? I don't know. I'm going to have to read every location name on the board to figure it out.
Until I get lucky and find the right one.
So stuff like that still irritates me, but I don't think it takes away from the overall gameplay. It just slows things down a bit.
All right.
We also played some Nidavellir.
Mm-hmm. I love this game so much. I wish it wasn't such a pain in the neck to set up.
Yeah, I mean, we have a 3D printed insert that does make setup go faster, but there's still a fair bit of setup to make it all work. I think it's a really cool set of mechanics in there. Like, people talk about the coin upgrading. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. Like, I love that you bid strategically to both do your bidding and upgrade your coins. But it's also got that point salady, like you're building an army and there's 5 different kinds of guys and they all score in different ways. And you really want a variety of the different types of people in your army, but then you're going to want to change your focus as different stuff comes out.
Yeah, I mean, you say point salad. It's not really point salad. It's set collection, but there's 5 different kinds of sets.
Sure.
There certainly is a way in this game where you're kind of varying your strategy based on which set you feel like you can get the most of. But ultimately, at the end of the day, with the possible exception of just also have a really high value coin, the sets are basically the more of this set that you get, the better you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But really love Nidavellir. We have it with the Edavol expansion. Thingvellir we didn't ever get our hands on.
Yeah.
I think this time around we just played kind of the vanilla game.
We just played the regular
introducing
game.
it to some people. Anyway. Next on the list is Floristry. We're still playing the heck out of Floristry. We are going to talk about it second half of the show, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore right now, but this game is fantastic. I cannot wait to release the review for this game.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Yep.
I learned Shovel Knight. How do I put this nicely? I did not hate it like I thought I was going to hate it.
Well, that's nice.
I mostly enjoyed the game, but it hews a little too closely to the source material of Shovel Knight, which is a game where you can just die and fail miserably. And unfortunately, you can do that in the board game as well. Technically, I died on my very first turn, and we just kind of house ruled like, well, you didn't die, and we'll go on. And it's very easy to end up with a game of this where nobody wins because everybody died, even though it's a competitive game.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know how or why, but I just have not had the chance to sit down with the boys and play this game. So I really can't speak to much of anything there, but oh well.
Credit to our boys. They have played it enough that they understand how to do all of the setup.
That's good.
So I had to read through the rules to understand what we were actually doing, but they handled all the setup themselves.
Right. All right, next on the list is Little Alchemists. This is another game that I really cannot wait to review. Little Alchemists is from Czech Games Edition. This is the family version of regular Alchemists.
I guess. I mean, we've never played the regular Alchemists.
Yeah. This is a really, really great app-accompanied deduction game that layers on the difficulty as you go through it and as you continue to add complexity. it starts very, very basic. It ramps up, I wouldn't say really quickly. I wouldn't say that. You can also play it at any of the different levels if you want to.
It only adds a little bit more to do each time you open a new box, but we're on box 6 at this point,
right.
So there's quite a few layers of stuff in here. I would say the first 1 or 2 levels of Little Alchemists is very much a kid's game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you start adding more stuff on, it becomes more of a family game. And at this point, we're moving towards a heavier family kind of light hobby game.
Yeah, and I think that's where it's going to land.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's really a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait to get in box 7 so we can see kind of the last stuff that is offered to us. And I think at that point, we'll feel like we've seen enough of the game that we can release the review.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we pretty much know how we feel about it at this point, but really want to make sure we see everything.
I mean, the main thing I'm going to say about it is our last podcast, we did a Room to Grow episode. Little Alchemist is a Room to Grow game. It's very much, you can start playing this with relatively young kids as long as they understand turn taking and keeping information hidden and deduction, which means you could start as young as 6 with some kids. With the kids we're currently playing with, I probably wouldn't have started any younger than 8. But it then ramps up, and in a way that's easy to keep moving and keep understanding.
Yeah, they do a good job with it.
Yeah, it's really good.
I'm very pleased.
I have also been playing a ton of Strato. So we're going to be reviewing this next week, but Strato is a solitaire card game based on weather.
Controlling the weather. You're Storm.
Kind of, yeah. But each kind of weather does very specific things when you set it down in the tableau. So the game has 10 different puzzle scenarios that you're trying to figure out. Really, it's got about 8 scenarios that are actually puzzles. The first 2 are really more to just teach you how the game works. And it's weird to me because there are very few solo puzzle type games where I sit down, and every time I sit down, I have to play the game once just to figure out what to do and what not to do. And then on a second play, I can possibly make a shot at winning. And I have that experience over and over and over again with Strato.
Mm. Yeah, we talked a little bit about this one as well and kind of our thoughts about that. And, we'll be sharing those pretty soon.
And there were some more games, but I think that's probably enough for right now.
Okay.
So let's share our kind of sad February numbers.
Sure, I'll go first. I have 14 plays of 10 unique games with an H index of 2, which is very, very bad.
Wow.
86% of my games are played at home. 50% of my games are played at 2 players. It's very obvious who I played the most games with.
So what are your games that you played at least twice?
I played Little Alchemist twice and Floristry 4 times.
Okay.
That's it. Everything else is a one-time go.
Fair enough. I obviously played a lot more than you. Just Strato alone, I pretty much played more than that. But it was still kind of a sad month for my usual. I played 22 different games, a total of 43 times. But a lot of those were super fast kid games or, like I said, Strato. Mm-hmm. So my H index is 3, and the 3 games that I played more than 3 times were Strato at 8 times, Floristry at 7 times, and Octo Grabbo at 4 times.
All right, well, that was kind of depressing. Let's look at something a little bit less depressing and welcome some new members to the Family Gamers community. Just 2 this week, but there's a dog with pizza, so if that doesn't attract anybody, I don't know what will. I will just say welcome to Tatar and welcome to Michael.
We're so glad that you're here.
Yes, thank you for joining, and definitely weigh in on the Backtalk questions that have already been asked if you'd like to, or some new ones.
Yeah, and I hope you like pizza.
Mm-hmm. I like pizza. But let us jump forward into some Backtalk. So last week, we asked the question, what is your favorite snack or candy? And we had a really good discussion on Discord. Not that much on the Facebook, unfortunately, but really good discussion on Discord. I will get that started by saying the first person to comment was Who Gaming 42, Zach, who said, my favorite candy has got to be Almond Joy, which is a great candy.
Solid choice.
Typically not a candy that I expect kids to say. So I was impressed by that. So you have impressed me, Zach. Congratulations. Adrian
on Discord said, Payday bar for candy. That definitely feels like a old person's candy. I'm sorry, Adrian, but it does.
How did we get like a bag of fun-sized paydays, by the way? Where did those come from?
One of our kids asked for them.
Really? Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's the one who's secretly an old man.
Yeah. Okay. The youngest of our children who's secretly an old man. Got
Yes.
it. Check.
But Adrian also says that she really likes popcorn drizzled with chocolate for a snack.
Okay, so was it
That I can get
popcorn,
behind.
or was it potato chips that we got for science once that were drizzled with white chocolate and milk chocolate or something?
With multiple things? I think it was popcorn.
It was popcorn?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That
So
was
good
delicious.
call, Adrian.
Yes.
Good call. Next on Discord, Mother of Readers, best handle ever, says lemon sherbet or jelly babies. Completely opposite textures.
So there were some responses further down to this. I'm going to point out that lemon sherbet or sherbet lemons are a British candy. So if you're an American and you're thinking like ice cream, it's not like that. It's kind of more like a super sour Smarties or very sugary, very sour. Not a glossy kind of candy at all.
All right.
Ken says that his favorite candy is hot tamales.
Okay, so I did say candy or snack. I assume he means the hot tamales.
I assume this is the candy.
Okay, all right. Over on Facebook, Jason Ayers says, "Take 5. Man, I am so with you."
Jason, excellent choice.
Yes, they are so good. So good. Mm-mm.
The Joyful Jedi on Discord says Lindt chocolate truffles, although the Aldi generic ones work too. Or unsalted, dry roasted peanuts and raisins. I can go for that. Or carrots and roasted red pepper hummus. That's something Andrew's been eating all week.
I've been eating that all the time. I do have to ask, though, the unsalted, dry roasted peanuts and raisins, are they shelled and like in a mix, or like, how is this?
That sounds like a mix to me.
It
like
sounds
peanuts
like a
and
mix
raisins.
to me, too, but I don't know.
Like super classic Gorp. No candy in
I
it.
Gotcha.
Just raisins and peanuts.
I don't know, man. Gorp has to have M&Ms in it. It has to.
You did not have a parent who was into health food.
Like into fake health food, not real health food. Like hyper-engineered health food, not like... Anyway.
Yes.
Whatever. Okay. You know what you could put in with the unsalted dry roasted peanuts and the raisins is Reese's Pieces, which is what Nick said. Fun story. The product placement in the movie E.T. worked. He's eaten them ever since. I actually think it might be because Reese's Pieces are one of the best candies ever made.
They're a fantastic
just
candy.
because they were in E.T., but, whatever. For snack, he said Honey Nut Chex Mix. I'm fine with that.
I can get behind
down with that.
I'm going to say that the peanut butter that Reese's uses, there's something in there, man. There's something to it. It's probably just lots of sugar.
I think it's the
I think it's
cocaine.
sugar.
It's something
So
white
much
and
sugar.
powdery, whatever it is.
JP says sour jujubes are probably his biggest candy vice. But for a snack that won't rot his insides, he'd go with apple slices and peanut butter.
Apple slices and peanut butter, another thing that's on my list, except
Yep.
I can't have fruit now either. So that's actually why that hasn't happened. So it's been celery.
You do
and
this
peanut
to
butter
yourself,
for me.
man.
I know, I do. It's my own. I gave up dairy and carbs and happiness. So, we're surviving.
We're there. And then we have one more piece of backtalk that is not food related. Olivier is backtalking to our backtalk about his dislike of Zombie Kids Evolution. I'm not going to get super into it, but he has good reasons for not liking it. And if you're curious, you should go check out the Discord because it's very well thought out.
Yep. I agree. Not necessarily that I agree with his take in general, but I agree with some of the ideas that he talks about. So
I can see
I'm
why
fine with
it would not work well for some families.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, Anitra,
Yes.
we just wrapped up with our back talk, talking about snacks
Yep.
and food.
Yep.
You know what that means?
We're going to do a fork science.
Yep, we are. I'm going to give you this whole thing.
Okay. Oh.
All right. So what we have in front of us are pink lemonade Kit Kats.
Yeah, these just showed up in your office,
Like literally, I came into my office one day, they were on my desk.
which means they're probably from your mom. But
probably. They smell like artificial strawberry.
they smell like a candle. They smell like a candle.
We might have more success lighting it on fire, but I'm gonna eat it anyway.
Pink lemonade Kit Kat. All
Here we
right,
go.
let's see how it goes. I know what I expect. Okay, there is a lemon flavor in there that I was not getting in the smell. Oh, the lemon gets stronger on the back end.
Not that bad.
So it's got your basic white chocolate Kit Kat, like that's the base.
But it's not that good. It's not as good as white chocolate Kit Kat.
Yeah, well, all of the weird flavored Kit Kats always start with that, like, waxy white chocolate base. But there's a little bit of lemon in the front, and then it gets stronger and stronger. So stuff kind of dissolves, which leads me to believe that the lemon is more in the filling between the wafers than it is in the outer chocolate shell.
Possible.
I think the outer chocolate shell is where you get that weird, not exactly strawberry, generic pink flavor.
Yeah, probably. Well, I think what I'm going to say is I'm glad this is limited edition. I don't think it has staying power, but it tastes better than it smells.
Yeah. I think that's true of a lot of Kit Kats, though. I mean, it smells like a candle, but it tastes mostly like lemon. So, not bad.
Yeah, we'll give the rest of this to our kids.
Yeah.
There you go. I just ate terrible, terrible carbs for science for all of you.
We appreciate it.
I hope you at least laughed at me. Got something out of it. If you're going to get Kit Kats, just get the regular ones. Or the coffee and dark chocolate or whatever they are. Those are pretty good.
Yeah. These are fine.
These are fine. All right. So, Anitra, let's take a quick break. I'm going to go brush my teeth or something.
Yeah.
And when we come back, we're going to talk about springtime games. We're going to talk about games that have flowers or plants or something like that in them. Sound good?
Sounds good. We'll be right back. Hey, Elliot, did you know that I share a birthday with A.A. Milne?
No?
He's the author of the Winnie the Pooh books.
Well, I didn't know that, but I love the Winnie the Pooh books. Did you know that Tigger is one of my favorite stuffies?
I think I did know that. This is a snap review for 100 Acre Wood Fluxx, a game for 1 to 6 players ages 8 and up.
Like other Fluxx games, it was designed by Andrew Looney and it's published by Looney Labs.
And like other Fluxx games, it can vary wildly in how long it takes to play. So, Elliot, let's talk about the art in this game.
Okay, these cards are great. The characters all look pretty happy, and when I look at some of the goals, I remember those stories.
They remind me a lot of the old illustrations by E.H. Shepard, but they're actually done by a guy named Eric Streed. I think they really capture the essence of classic Winnie the Pooh.
You do need to know, this is not the Disney version of Pooh Bear and his friends.
So let's talk about the mechanics. If you've ever played any of the Fluxx card games, you already know how to play this one. But if you haven't, here's a quick rundown. Fluxx is a game where the rules change as you play. On your turn, you'll be drawing at least one card and playing at least one card. There are 4 types of cards in this game: new rules, keepers, goals, and actions. New rules are exactly what they sound like. When you play one of these cards, you change some aspect of how the game works. Maybe drawing more cards, or maybe playing more cards. You might add a limit to how many cards you can have in your hand, or make additional kinds of actions available on a player's turn.
New rules stay in play until they're either replaced by a competing new rule or discarded by an action card.
Action cards are one-time use. Play them and immediately do what they say. These often involve discarding rules or shuffling around cards and goals. There are a few particular to the world of Winnie the Pooh, like
Let's Pretend,
The Flood, and
Expedition to the North Pole. Keepers are characters or items that get played in front of you from your hand.
Each goal card sets a win condition for the game, and there's usually only one active goal at a time. Every goal card shows a combination of 2 or 3 keepers. If any player has the keepers to fulfill the active goal, they immediately win the game. All of the keepers and the goals in this game are pulled directly from the stories of Winnie the Pooh.
Wait, you forgot the rule about stuffies!
You're right. Specific to this version of Fluxx is the plush players rule. Stuffies can play the game as long as they have a primary human companion sitting next to them to handle the cards. They play cards from their hand at random. And the rules say that if a plush player wins, no other player is allowed to take credit for that. So, Elliot, what did you expect from 100 Acre Wood Fluxx?
I expected a Fluxx game that was Winnie the Pooh themed. I mean, it looked a little weird, but it's Winnie the Pooh themed.
I don't love Fluxx games, but I do love Winnie the Pooh. And finding out about the plush player rule made me interested in trying this one. I expect it would be another one of the family Fluxxes without creepers or too many ways to intentionally mess up the other players. So, Elliot, is there anything that surprised you?
I mean, the fact that you can play with stuffies as players? That was a really great surprise.
I was surprised at just how much this game pulled you in. It was really crafted with a love for Winnie the Pooh, and it references all our favorite moments from these 100-year-old stories.
We recommend 100 Acre Wood Fluxx if you love Winnie the Pooh. It could also be a good way to introduce your kids to Fluxx or your grandkids to Fluxx, and they can play it against a stuffy if they want.
We give 100 Acre Wood Fluxx 4 honeypots out of 5. And that's 100 Acre Wood Fluxx in a snap. And we're back.
Hello.
So we're going to talk about 10 games. We did narrow it down to 10.
Yeah, it's not like a top 10 or anything.
No.
It's just 10 games.
10 games that make us think spring because they're about flowers and plants and growing things. So with each one, why don't we talk about the game itself, why it makes us think of spring, and who it's good for.
Sure. Let's do that.
All right.
So at the top, do you want to talk about the game that we've been talking about for a while?
Sure. The first game that we thought of was Floristry.
Okay, so this game's coming out in a couple of weeks. So I know we've been talking about it for a while. It's coming out really soon, frankly, at the right time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say you should all go out and buy this game, but let's just imagine that for a moment I said you should all go out and buy this game. If you play 2-player games, this is definitely something you should think about.
It's a great choice. In Floristry, you're running a flower shop and competing against your competitor flower shop in trying to make the best display of flowers. It's got a really interesting auction mechanic with a timer. So you do have a web app that you use to play the game, but the whole thing flows really nicely and smoothly. So it makes me think spring because it is kind of bright and sunny and full of flowers with cute cats. And it's a really great, quick 2-player game.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. I mean, spring is very much the season of flowers, and this is a game that is entirely about flowers. And one of the things I really like about it is that you can try to specialize in certain kinds of flowers, and you could do it in the sense that, like, maybe there's a type of flower that you really like, and you just, like, as a person, and you're like, oh, I'm always going to try to get that flower. Yeah. And, your opponent may or may not use that to their advantage, whatever.
The mums or the tulips or the roses.
Yeah. And, it's just this kind of process of collecting flowers and making something that's pretty, and I like that. That's nice.
All right.
The next game on our little list here is Flower Fields. This is a game from Horrible Guild that we reviewed not too long ago.
Very recently.
Yep. This game absolutely makes me think about spring because the game is really all about the pollinators, right? This is a game where, yes, you're placing flowers, but also you're placing bees. Bees are the currency of the game.
They're the currency, and they're also how you score.
Yeah, and so I think of, what do they call it? Like May is like no mow May because you're trying to help out the pollinators or whatever it is. Like, and that's all about bees and stuff like that. And so when I think about the insects that we largely consider to be nuisances if we're not really thinking things through, right? They're an important part of the ecosystem, and this is a game that kind of celebrates their presence a little bit, and I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. Flower Fields works okay as a solo game, and it's pretty good at 2 players. I think it's probably best at 3 or 4 players. It is a step up from King Domino, I would say, because it uses a similar scoring mechanism to King Domino, so you need to be able to understand that multiplier effect, and there's additional complexity because you're deciding when is it worth it to pay bees to put a bee down, which will help me score more in the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Plus, it's got that patchwork mechanic, but it's for more than 2 players, potentially, which is nice.
Yeah, the next tile in line, or you can pay slightly to move it further along.
It's not buttons, it's bees.
Yeah. Everything is bees in Flower Fields.
But for me, these polyomino placement games, I just love them.
Sure.
Love them a lot,
I mean, I'm a fan. Probably not as big a fan of Flower Fields as you are, but it is a good game. Well, from running a flower shop to growing and pollinating the flowers, now we're going to talk about a real life situation where flowers are grown and sold and given away, and that's Gift of Tulips. So Gift of Tulips is set in Holland, and the idea is that you are sort of acquiring tulips for a festival that's going to happen at the end of the game. But the rules say that of the 2 tulips you're going to see on your turn, you can only keep at most one of them. And you make those decisions 1 flower at a time. So you can either keep a flower, put a flower in a secret festival for the end, put a flower in the open scoring to change the festival scoring at the end of the game, or you can give the flower away. In many cases, giving a flower away will actually get you more points than keeping the flower for yourself. And so I love the art on it, which makes me think spring a lot. But I also love this idea of a game where you are rewarded just as much or more for giving things away as you are for keeping things or trying to change the points in your favor.
Yeah, this is a really interesting game. This is from Weird Giraffe Games, and they always have some unique kind of twist in every single one of the games that they put out. Gift of Tulips is really interesting in this way. This constant balancing of the market board and your own personal tableau is just a really interesting and unique dynamic. You see things similar to this in a bunch of other games, but this is one that's obviously based on flowers, and so here it is.
Well, and I will say this is the first grown-up game that I've ever played that tells you to share and give things away in the game.
Yeah, I guess we see that in some kids' games.
Yeah.
But frankly, grown-ups need to learn it too, so.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's funny.
So it's unique, and I like it a lot, but also I love the art in that game.
Sure. All right, well, speaking of just like really beautiful art, kind of enchanting art, the next one on the list is the game Bonsai. So this is a game that we actually got this one super early, but it kind of caught me by surprise with just how much I really enjoyed playing this game. This is one of the first games that I sat down with and played as a solo game in the same way as some of the games that are on this list that you play as solo games. So Bonsai, obviously a game about bonsai trees. I know,
What?
shock.
No.
I know. Everybody is building / growing / curating their own bonsai tree, I guess would be the easiest way to say it. And there's a couple of different kinds of goals that you can sort of elect to go for in order to, score points for basically different styles of bonsai tree. Is more or less what they are. I really like this game because you get a very organic tableau as you go through the game, and
that is your tree.
It's your tree, and it just the way that it very naturally grows and spreads and blooms. It's just really, really nice. And I think it's a multiplayer game. It's fine, and I have fun with it, and we have a good time playing it 2 or 3 or 4 players. But for me, this one really shone as a solo game.
Well, it's pretty much a multiplayer solitaire game as it is. There's very little player interaction. So I can get that. The thing that always strikes me about bonsai is how much it feels like you are sculpting your final tree product. So many of these other tile laying kinds of games, it's like, oh, well, I just want to maximize my space and I'm going to do this thing. But because there are some restrictions on how you can place leaves and fruit and flowers, and you have all of those different goals that you can go for, it really does force you to make interesting decisions in like, well, if I extend this branch just a little bit further, then I can put some leaves on it before I start curving it up and around, and that'll give me more room for fruit. And so every game, everyone's trees look different and organic. That's the word you used before. They really do look organic, which is a weird thing to say about setting down a bunch of hex tiles.
Yeah, but it
it's
works.
True.
But it totally works. And, Bonsai is a game that really captures the idea of art in growth, right? When you read through the manual, and there's a bunch of stuff about bonsai tree in there, it talks about the idea that a bonsai tree is in many ways a reflection of the person who's taking care of them.
Oh, sure.
Right? And I think that's really true in this game. We're going to talk about another game that in the review for that game, we talk about how, because it's a Euro, people can elect to play it in the way that they want to and not be kicked out, right? And they can say, I want to do beautiful things, not necessarily maximize my score. And then at the end of the game, they might come in last, but they made beautiful things and they don't care. And that's also true in bonsai.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. As an aside, this reminds me, have you ever seen a picture of a bonsai apple tree?
No, but I feel like the apples on it would be like little grape tomatoes.
No. If you have a bonsai apple tree and you've tended it correctly, it will probably only grow one apple, but it will be one full-size apple on
so weird.
This tiny little bonsai tree.
That's so weird. That's so weird.
Nature is weird, man.
All right. What do you got?
Well, speaking of beautiful art and organic things, how about the Tea Dragon Society?
That is a cute game.
So this is a card game that is sort of my first deck builder. It's definitely more for kids than for adults. There's not a ton of variety in the game. However, it's super cute. It's so cute, you guys. And the whole idea is that these tea dragons have like the tea plants or the tea flowers growing on them. And so you're tending these tea dragons both to, be a kind person and befriend them, but also to eventually, outside of the game, harvest the tea off of them without hurting them.
Okay,
But they're super cute, and there are 4 dragons in the game. They all have different personalities, and you're just building your deck trying to take care of them. So you're trying to get them to sleep and to play and to eat without doing things like biting or running away. But there's so much flower art in this game that I thought of it almost right away when we started talking about flower and plant games. And this one is very kid-friendly in the art and the styling of the game. You do need to be able to read, and you do need to have some patience. But it is definitely more on the end of being a kid's game.
All right. Fun. And I think... Is it a graphic novel or is it some kind of comic or webcomic or something that is the intellectual property that this comes from?
Yes, it is a graphic novel. Honestly, if you just buy the game, there are 2 sets of instructions in there. One is just the straight up, like, here's what your pieces are and here's how you lay stuff out. And the other one gives the basics of how to play in comic book form. That part is really great.
All right, so... We went from kind of realistic, organic growing to the unrealistic but adorable tea dragons. Right.
Yeah.
And we're going to go straight at this point into fantasy. How's that? That sound okay?
All right.
Here we're going to step into the world of Power Plants. This game came out a couple of years ago from Kids Table Board Games. It is a area like influence tile placement game, I guess would be the easiest way to kind of describe what's going on here. You are like a wizard that is growing these crazy plants, I guess is the easiest way for me to explain it.
They are really crazy magical plants.
Yeah, you're growing a shared garden of magical plants with your rivals. Each turn you choose one of the patch tiles from your hand and add it to the growing garden. You can activate the tile for its plant power or activate all of the tiles it touches for a slightly weaker version. So like there's the kind of the OP... I'm only activating one tile, or there's the lesser powerful, I'm activating everything around this, and those are kind of the grow powers. So fields expand, and you're trying to control as much of the board as possible. It is weird. It is really pretty, whether you get the deluxe version or not. It is very nice looking. I love the art, and I love the art in most kids' table board gaming games. The tiles are really cool. They're kind of hex tiles.
They're hex tiles.
They are hex tiles.
But with a little bit of a wave to the border, which actually means that they slot together a little bit better.
Yeah. It's a little bit more interlocking than just putting hex tiles together. But they're super bright colors, and they just look really, really great. And the powers are weird. I don't know. It's a cool game. It's definitely more of a kind of like offensive growth as opposed to, just
This is not a terribly friendly game.
Yeah, it's not even remotely. In the way that most games that we were talking about are kind of like the soft and the kind, this is just not that. It's not like super mean, but it's not spring normative. Let's put it that way.
It's very much everybody looking out for themselves.
Yep.
You don't necessarily need to be mean, but you're not going to try to help other people.
and that is Power Plants from Cthulhu Board Games.
All right, so I'm going to go a different direction again and talk about a solo game that is very stylized, but is definitely very much about growing things. And that is Grove.
Yeah, you love these games in this series.
So there's a whole series here. There's Orchard, there's Grove, there's Forage. But Grove, in addition to being my favorite of the three, also feels the most springy to me, which is weird. I think it's just because it's green. But in Grove, you are creating a grove of citrus trees. You have oranges, limes, and lemons. And you are trying to stack cards so as to encourage growth of each specific kind of tree, and you're tracking the growth with dice, basically. But the dice go 2 through 5, and then I think it's 10 on the 6th side. I really enjoy these games, and they're super quick setup, super quick cleanup, and it's just a really satisfying puzzle. You're only putting down 9 cards to play a game, and it's always a really challenging, well, I can fit this card this way, but I'm going to have to take a penalty, or I can fit it over here, but that's only going to overlap one tree, and so I'm only going to upgrade this one tree, which is really more worth it, or maybe I could put it over here and upgrade 2 trees for 1 each instead of 1 tree for 2. So I think it's really great. Like I said, it's small, it's portable, it plays fast because it's only 9 cards, and so it also sets up and cleans up fast. I have played this in the dentist's office while waiting for my kids, and I think it would be an excellent choice if you just want something springy that you can bring with you pretty much anywhere.
Cool. No, I like it. I mean, you are the master of the small box, small card count games, so unsurprising that you would bring one into this list as well. Next game I'm going to talk about is a game that we are about to release our review for next couple of weeks, and this is a game that is technically not about flowers and technically not about mushrooms, but it is about growing things, and it is about gnomes, and that is the game Gnome Hollow.
So we're back into the fantasy creatures on this one.
Hey, listen, I never left the fantasy creatures.
I suppose that's true.
Gnome Hollow is a game from the Op. It is a really cute game where all of the gnomes are celebrating like the harvest festival or something.
I don't know,
like
man.
That. I don't know. And so they're making rings of mushrooms and flowers, and when you complete rings, you get stuff for them, basically. You are trying to set collect all of the flowers. You are trying to set collect all of the mushrooms. And when you set collect the mushrooms, you turn them in for treasures.
Yes. You're also trying to straight up just make rings, because making rings gets you points in the same way that collecting flowers gets you points.
Yep.
Literally the same scale, which I do really like about the player board. It's really nicely set up.
Yeah. The graphic design in this game just absolutely crushed it. The art in this game is absolutely beautiful.
It's great.
It feels very point-sality. There are 3 different ways that you get points in this game primarily. Like we said, it is the flowers, it is gathering mushrooms to sell them for treasures, and it is completing the rings.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, you're always trying to do more things than you can possibly do. So this is a worker placement game, I guess would be the easiest way to kind of describe that. You are placing a gnome in a place to do a thing.
Yeah, kind of. Mm-hmm. Worker placement as you're also sort of building out the map.
Right. Really fun game. You're growing mushrooms, you're growing flowers. It is a game that has the right color palette to make me think spring.
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. Gnome Hollow is generally also a pretty friendly game.
Mm-hmm. You can be a jerk in this game.
You can be a jerk, but there is specifically a rule where, you're placing stuff down. It feels a little bit like Carcassonne in the way you are placing these hex tiles down, and it might affect other people's plans. But if you place a tile that would connect to somebody else's claimed path, you can only do it if they give you permission.
Which is cute.
It's just a nice little additional rule there that you can't be like, ha ha, I messed up your plans entirely and I get everything and you get nothing. Because the other person can just be like, no, I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I think I'm a bigger fan of Gnome Hollow than you are, but
yes.
A lot of that is because I like holding a lot of different things in my head at the same time and you don't.
My issues with it, honestly have a lot more to do with the setup and the teaching of the game. I enjoy playing the game just fine. It's just a lot.
All right. Well, there you go.
A game that is not a lot.
That's kind of
is my
the
next
point
choice.
of the game is that it's not a lot.
Yes, is A Gentle Rain. So this is super great for springtime because at least here in New England, as soon as it warms up, it's basically going to be all rain all the time for a while. And A Gentle Rain is about observing flowers on a pond that are opening slowly as the rain hits them. A Gentle Rain is a very simple pattern matching kind of game. You draw a tile, you look for a place that it would fit and match at least one other tile's edge. And if you make a group of 4 tiles, then they have a little hole in the center, and you can put a flower that matches one of the adjacent flowers in that spot. If you can place all 8 flower tiles before you run out of the square tiles to put down, you win the game. If not, hopefully you still enjoyed yourself and had a calm, chill time putting out this little, pondscape. The newer version of A Gentle Rain, which is the one you can buy in stores right now, also has some really fantastic art with like turtles and fish on some of the tiles. It's nice, and it feels slightly less springy to me, but it feels very calm.
Good stuff. That leaves us with one more, Anitra. And, a lot of people who are out there might be thinking, but Anitra, you talk about this game a lot. Actually, you haven't talked about it in a while.
I haven't talked about it in a while.
But it's literally all about flowers. 100% all flowers all the time. Giving even, you've talked about gifting. And somehow you didn't put it on the list, and I had to add it to the list.
You had to fix it for me, yes.
Whatever. That game is Tussie Mussy. Tussie Mussy is an absolutely fantastic I Split You Choose flower gift-giving game.
Yes. This works at as few as 2 or as many as 4 players. We actually like it best at 2 players, but it does work okay at 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. The I Split You Choose mechanism here is genius. You make an offer to the other player if it's 2 players, or the player on your left if it's more. But you make an offer to the other player, and it has 1 flower card face up and 1 flower card face down. They can't look at the face down card before they decide which one of those 2 they're going to take, and then the person making the offer gets the other card back. So it's got layers of strategy in there because some cards work best when they're face down, other cards work best when they're face up. It's also got elements of set collection and all of this. And so you're also kind of bluffing people as you go and be like, oh, well, I'm going to give them this super awesome one face up so they don't choose the face down one because I really want that face down card.
Yep.
Or vice versa. I'm going to give a really, one that's going to stink for them face up, but it would be good for me in the hopes that they'll take the face down card. It's a simple game with a lot of layers to it, I think.
It's brilliant. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Great game. Great game. Tussie Mussy.
And honestly, I think part of why I didn't think about it is because I think of it more like Valentine's Day kind of thing, because it's about giving flowers that symbolize some kind of secret message. Mm-hmm. To the other person.
But sometimes that secret message is not a positive secret message.
That's true. I mean, it's never like, I hate you, but it's sometimes like, go away.
Yeah. All right, and that is our 10 flower.
That's our
games,
10 flower and plant games for spring.
All right, I'm going to read through them for you. Floristry, Flower Fields, Gift of Tulips, Bonsai, Tea Dragon Society, Power Plants, Grove, Gnome Hollow, A Gentle Rain, and Tussie Mussy.
This is making me want to go play some flower games.
I mean, it always does, right? We always spend, hours thinking about the games that we're going to include on the show for whatever the show topic is, and then we're like, no, we got to go play all these games.
Now that we talked about it, let's go play them.
Right? So the next show should be games that the Family Gamers have to review, and then we'll feel like playing all of those.
I know, right?
All right. No, I'm just kidding. But, of course, this is the part of the show where we talk about our new Backtalk question, and I have a Backtalk question.
Okay, great.
And that Backtalk question is, do you have a favorite flower? And not like gold medal. Like, that doesn't count.
I mean, that might be some people's favorite.
It might be somebody's favorite. But anyway, I mean like the ones that
King
grow
Arthur.
outside. Yeah, King Arthur gold medal. Whatever that, I don't even know. But my favorite flower This has come on in the last couple of years. It used to be lilies, especially calla lilies. I really like how they're very slender. They kind of have that nice little kind of bowl look, the calla lily. But really, even daylilies I really liked. But like recently, it's been dahlias. I really like dahlias with all the little kind of like mini loops in them, and they're absolutely gorgeous.
All right.
Big fan of dahlias.
My favorite, which is not one that you can like make a bouquet of and bring in the house, is pansies.
So I knew this, but what I don't know is why pansies.
I'm not sure exactly why. I have positive associations with pansies for a couple of things, which is there would always be some pansies poking out as like the first flowers of spring. I mean, that happens at our house now too. They're some of the earliest ones to bloom. They're extremely low maintenance. And I do just love the way they look. Those 4 little petals, they've almost got a face on them. And it's really a shame that the word pansy has such negative connotations because I really love the flowers. They're little, they're unassuming, and they're beautiful.
All right. Well, there you go.
So that's my favorite.
So out there, do you have a favorite flower? If you do, there's a bunch of different ways that you can tell us. We will post this Backtalk question in 2 places. One of them is the family tabletop community on Discord in the Backtalk channel. Is that what they're called? Is that
channel.
The correct lingo?
Yes.
You can get to that by going to thefamilygamers.com/Discord, joining the family tabletop community there. There's lots of great other content creators. We're having a good time in the Discord community. The other place, of course, is on Facebook.
The best way to get there is to go to thefamilygamers.com/community. But if you just go on Facebook and search for Family Gamers, you'll probably find it.
Yeah, you can find us all over social media with our handle at Family Gamers, A for Andrew and Anitra. You can find us on Facebook, on X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the places. We try to be on all the places. We're on Blue Sky too. That's not on the list, but we are on Blue Sky.
Technically, we're there.
Yep, at Family Gamers, AA. Of course, you can always just send us email if you want to do that. You can find me, Andrew, at thefamilygamers.com.
Anitra at thefamilygamers.com.
Please do not forget to subscribe to this show so you can get it in your ear holes every other week. Tell your friends about the show and leave us a review at Apple Podcast or whatever your podcast subscription source is. You can find us on Amazon Music. You can find us on TuneIn. You can find us on Spotify. And you can even find the podcast on YouTube Music.
We see you, couple of people who listen to us on YouTube. I appreciate you.
Yes, we do.
The Family Gamers is sponsored by First Move Financial. Go to firstmovefinancial.com/familygamers and learn how the team at First Move Financial can help you pile up the victory points.
And flowers.
And flowers.
All right. Well, it sounds like Anitra is in the mood to play some flower-based games.
Yes.
Those are not going to result in me getting cookies out of the flower, unfortunately. But we're going to play some games that involve the things that grow in the ground outside.
All right.
And we'll tell you all about that in a couple of weeks. So until then, everybody,
play games with your kids.